Today in Review This Thing, we're going to review this thing, the Indian Creek Designs BFD. Today we are going to talk about the Indian Creek Designs BFD or blast forwarding device. A few months ago, I posted a review of the Whip Machine SME, which that review is below if you want to click that link and check that out. A lot of people commented that the SME was similar to several other devices that had the same purpose in mind. One of those devices someone mentioned was the Indian Creek BFD. So the fine folks over there at Indian Creek were kind enough to send us the BFD XL to try out on one of our rifles. Now, if you're new to these types of devices, it's similar to, say, a linear compensator, something along those lines. What it does is it does not decrease the amount of sound, so it is not a suppressor, but it instead redirects the sound, the percussive forces, the gases forward so that it's a lot less intrusive, loud, boomy to the people who are near you as well as to the shooter. So we've had this a few months now. We've been able to shoot it several times and we want to give you a review, so let's review this thing. As always, on Review This Thing, we want to cover the facts. The first part is fit. So there are really three parts to fit with the Indian Creek BFD. The first is, will it fit on your rifle? So when you buy your BFD, you want to buy the adapter that matches the size of your barrel. So if you have a 5/8 by 24, you're going to get the 5/8 adapter, or a 1/2 inch, same thing. The nice thing is that this particular piece of the BFD will fit over the adapter, whether it's a 1/2 inch or 5/8 or whatever size. Once you buy the BFD with the adapter, if you want to use this on other rifles, then you just have to buy an adapter separately. You don't necessarily have to buy a whole nother BFD. So just make sure when you're ordering, you look on their website and make sure it's going to fit on the threading of your rifle. The second thing you want to know is it going to fit over your muzzle brake? The diameter of the brake has to be smaller than 1 inch for it to slide over the top of that brake. And keep in mind, if you're a little concerned about your fit, Gary at Indian Creek Designs is super helpful. Just email and he'll get back with you as quick as he can. And then the third piece to fit is you want to make sure that it's long enough to fit over your brake. This one is an XL, so it's 3 inches long. They also have one that's 2 1/4. So depending on how big the brake is that you buy, that'll help you decide if you want the regular or the XL. Now, we mounted ours to this Ruger American Predator. We actually have a couple of videos on this gun specifically as well, so check those links out below. And we got this Midwest Industries 30 caliber brake, and it fits over it perfectly. So because we were able to get one that fit perfectly over the brake that we bought, over the rifle that we have, we're going to have to give fit a 5 out of 5. Now is the Indian Creek BFD as advertised. So the main thing advertised about the Indian Creek BFD is that it is going to significantly decrease the amount of percussive forces that gets thrown out of the muzzle. In order for us to test that, we wanted to run a few different tests. The first one, I tried to use a digital anemometer. You can see whenever I put that beside the BFD, there's really no extra wind blowing, so it didn't change the measurement really at all. We also ran another test with just the muzzle brake, and you can see that it blew it enough to knock it over. But the maximum reading that I got there before it fell over was 78.7 miles an hour. So theoretically, with just that muzzle brake on there, you're getting about 80 miles an hour worth of wind. And once you put this on there, you get basically no extra wind. We also wanted a pretty clear visual of the amount of percussive forces that were coming out. So we used the can test, and whenever you have the BFD on there, nothing, the can stays still. However, when we put the muzzle brake on there without the BFD, you can clearly see there's a great deal more of those forces, those wind forces that are just shooting out of that muzzle brake. A couple of these cans, one was about 10 yards away and the other was about 7 or 8 yards away. So definitely a lot of percussive forces with that muzzle brake. And you can see from these still shots, with just the muzzle brake, you can just see that huge cloud of wind, of percussion coming out of that gun. But whenever we put the BFD on, you can see it is very centrally directed away from the muzzle. Now you may wonder, why do I need that instead of just the regular old thread protector? The other thing that the BFD does, it doesn't actually suppress the sound. It just directs it away from the shooter so that it feels like it's not as loud. Now, as far as how well it does that, I can only give you a subjective report. And before you start telling me I should have got a decibel meter, I did have a decibel meter. I tried one of the cheap ones just to see if it may give me some indication, but it doesn't. Couple reasons. Number one, don't read loudly enough to hear a gunshot. B, it's not going to read it because it's not fast enough. The most this one read was like 93.5, and that was with the brake, without the brake. So before you yell at me about not having a decibel meter, I looked it up and it would cost $1,000 to $1,300 to rent the equipment for about a week. So you're just going to have to trust me. And my subjective report, I'll tell you that you can definitely feel a difference when you're shooting and when you're standing by the shooter. 100% having it over the muzzle brake, but also just comparing it to shooting with the muzzle protector. This definitely helps direct percussion, direct sound downrange so that when you're shooting or when you're near the shooter, it doesn't feel as loud or really sound as loud. And then the last thing we wanted to check was how does the BFD affect recoil reduction? So the first video I want to show you is the difference in shooting the rifle with just the muzzle protector and then shooting it with the brake on it. And you can definitely see there's a lot more backwards recoil, there's a lot more rise of the barrel without that muzzle brake on it. And that's completely what the point of that is. So now let's look at the muzzle brake versus the BFD. So you can definitely see that the BFD does impact the amount of recoil. So you're still going to get more recoil reduction with just the brake versus putting this BFD on it. Now when my husband was shooting it, he didn't get near as much difference. Some of that could be because on this particular rifle, the length of pull is a bit too long for me, and I was having to stretch a little to see through the scope. It could also be because I'm 5'4" and weigh a few less pounds than he does. And then finally, let's just look at just the muzzle protector versus the BFD. You can see that it still comes back quite a bit. So the amount of rise you're going to get with just the muzzle protector is a lot more than once you put this BFD over that brake. So what are we going to give as advertised? It pretty much does everything that they say. I'm going to take just a little bit off because I felt like I lost a lot of recoil reduction for me personally whenever I put the BFD on. But again, my husband did not experience that same amount. So I'm going to give, as advertised, a 4.5 out of 5. Now on to construction and durability. Now this device is made of a matte black anodized aluminum. It's total about 3.5 inches long. The diameter at the far end is a little over 1.5 inches. And this piece weighs about 2.5 ounces, and then the adapter just weighs a few more ounces, which is really nice because it doesn't significantly change the weight or the balance of the rifle. One thing I mentioned about construction that I like is that it can fit over multiple adapters. So you just buy the extra adapters, which I think are about $30, and then you can switch it out. Now do keep in mind if you're going to shoot a lot through it and then try to move it, it's metal, so it's going to get hot, so you may want to give it plenty of time to rest, or make sure you're using a pot holder or something to take it off. I also really like the design fact that it'll fit over tons of different muzzle brakes, so there isn't just one particular brake you have to buy. One part of construction that we wanted to test is how this BFD would affect zero. We shot several rounds, we left it off and then we put it on, took it off, put it on, and basically we found that there's really not a tremendous difference, especially for like a 100-yard hunting situation. As far as short-term durability, we've had no issues so far. It's held up well. As far as long-term durability, we've only had it a few months and we've shot 40 or 50 rounds through it. So I reached out to some people I know that have these, and they say they've shot hundreds, if not thousands of rounds through it without any problems. So I'm going to go based on their word. Now, overall, we're very happy. Construction, durability, everything has been good so far. So because of that, we're going to give construction and durability a 5 out of 5. Now on to testimonials and reviews. As always, I like to look for the 1 and 2 score reviews so I can tell you the things people did not like about the product. One thing somebody mentioned was that the adapter became loose. I checked ours and it has not come loose at all because you just slide it over the barrel and then tighten the muzzle brake onto it. The only thing I can think is maybe they didn't get the right size adapter, so there was too much space there. I'm not sure, but we haven't had any trouble with ours being loose. Another person mentioned they felt like it was just a little too shiny, I guess for a hunting situation. Another person's primary complaint was, my friend said it didn't make a difference. Now, some people say the difference you can't tell as much on an AR or something like that, but on the Ruger American Predator we were shooting it on, I could definitely tell a difference. And then the final complaint I found was somebody said there wasn't enough clearance for the handguard. I cannot speak to that. We've only used this on a long rifle. If you have experience on an AR, comment below and let us know how it works for you on that platform. That would really help us out. Now, as always, we give you the score that we found. So for testimonials and reviews, we give it a 4.7 out of 5. Now, the number one question you want to know, should you buy this thing? You know what I'm going to say? It depends on what you're looking for. Now, if you're looking for something to replace a suppressor, this is not going to be it. It does not suppress the sound. It's still going to be loud, but it does make the percussion, the forces of that sound less. But if you are looking for a device that will make your shooting experience more pleasant and the experience of the people near you more pleasant, this might be just what you're looking for. It's also nice because, let's say in a hunting situation, maybe you're not wearing hearing protection, it's going to be a lot less force and compression in your ear as well. Now, I definitely do not ever recommend shooting without hearing protection, but on the occasion that you forgot it or something like that, this should definitely help protect your ears some. So the Indian Creek Designs BFD retails on their website for $79.95, and that's for this piece plus the adapter. Now, like we've talked about, do keep in mind you're going to need to also buy a muzzle brake. The one I bought was like 30 bucks. One of the best parts about Indian Creek Designs is by far the customer service. Gary's been super helpful, really quickly answering any questions I had and very thoroughly as well. There were actually several reviews where people mentioned that because of the customer service, they wanted to buy more devices from that website. So just know that you're not only buying a high quality product, but you're also buying awesome customer service. So if what you're looking for is something to help decrease the percussion, give you a little recoil reduction, and decrease the amount of sound you're feeling when you shoot, this may be just what you're looking for. So because of that, I'm going to give Should You Buy This Thing a 5 out of 5. Hey, thanks for watching our Indian Creek Designs BFD review video. While you're here, make sure and watch a whole bunch of other videos. Give us a thumbs up, give us a like. If you really like what we do, subscribe to our channel. Share it with your friends, and then also do us a favor and follow us on Instagram and on Facebook.